All right, good evening. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Ancestor Project's officially our first open house. And today we're going to use this as an informational session, but I definitely want it to be more of a conversation as well. So any questions that you have, I want you to walk away from this having them answered and understanding what it is to expect in the upcoming weeks with this program. So I want to spend a little bit of time giving you an overview of the mission. We're going to do a brief presentation. Any and all questions that come to mind, you can type them in the chat box, or you can wait till the end and we'll just have an open Q&A. So I'm just going to share this presentation with you. Okay. All right. So we are the Ancestor Project, Warriors Fighting Cancer with Fitness. And again, I just want to give you a brief overview of our mission. So the Ancestor Project strives to improve the health and well-being of cancer warriors at every stage of their fight. And what this means is that no matter what the diagnosis, no matter what the treatment, no matter what age, gender, fitness level, we want to help you and we want you in our programs. So we serve warriors of all ages over the age of 18, backgrounds, diagnosis, and this is all regardless of ability to pay. And here's just a shout out to my 93-year-old client, Joe. He is a cancer survivor and he's one of my one-on-one personal training clients. Thank you, Joe, for being my model. And so we base our model and programming on benefits of exercise for anybody who's ever had a cancer diagnosis, and we associate these with 4 foundational pillars, which are strength, spirit, courage, and connectedness. I wanted to highlight these because, you know, I think of all 4 elements that are imperative to the success of a well-rounded program of this type. And I think they're essential to the success of each warrior that we serve mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially. You know, first and foremost, we want to, you know, increase quality of life, achieve maximal physical capacity. We want, you know, to reduce the mental and physical side effects associated with treatment. We want to empower warriors with knowledge and the ability to program for themselves in the long term. And, you know, we want to do this while facilitating relationships and creating this community so that everybody knows that they're not alone in their fights. So just going back to kind of the goals of the program, we want to increase physical capacity, decrease the mental and physical negative side effects associated with cancer and recovery. We want to encourage long-term wellness, foster supportive relationships. We want to also, you know, contribute to the growing knowledge in this field of study. It's still a relatively new area of study, so we want to be able to, you know, be a part of that and contribute to that through our data and our measurements and our testing. And we want to also be inclusive and allow all participants to be able to join from anywhere in the world as long as they have a smart device. And we want to reach all demographics regardless of ability to pay. How are we going to do this? Quick overview of our strategy. We want to focus on individualized improvements in key wellness areas, meaning we want to focus on cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, muscular endurance, balance, flexibility, range of motion, breath work, all of the above. And we want to be able to do this in real time so that we can provide modifications if needed and you know, real-time feedback and allow participants to ask questions as we go. We also want to, again, facilitate those relationships and have open discussions and share success stories, or be able to lean on each other when we have any problems or issues that we need help resolving. The online sessions that we're going to offer, these will allow warriors to participate from anywhere, and we want to charge minimal fees on a pay what you can basis. So it's going to be a sliding scale. We also, you know, part of our strategy is to connect with other cancer focused organizations and nonprofits, not necessarily fitness specific, but anything related to cancer research, treatment, recovery, all of the above. And in order to contribute to the growing body of knowledge and prove that our formula is working, we're going to be taking specific pre and post program assessments and self-surveys. So there's going to be, especially with the new virtual program, there's going to be a lot of qualitative data. So it's going to be very much based on how the individual is feeling before and after the program and before and after a workout. So going back to the program itself. So the program that we're actively recruiting for right now is our 16-week progressive group training series. And we look at this as kind of a 3-phase strategy. So we want to have a gain and sustain phase. And this is where you are learning the foundational skills that you need to be able to have a safe and effective regimen lifelong. And we want to kind of have this 12-week period where you're learning new skills, but then you have ample time to practice them and perfect them. And we think that 12 weeks is kind of the ideal amount of time for that. But then we want, after the 12 weeks is over, we want a 4-week kind of retainment period where you're putting everything that you learned into practice and you're doing it in a self-teaching kind of way. So the groups are going to actually be coming up with the programming with the assistance of the instructor, and they're going to be kind of programming for the rest of the group. So really putting what they learned into practice. And then after the 16-week program, we're going to have a maintenance period, or I'm sorry, maintenance programming, which means, we want all of our graduates to be able to, one, stay in touch with each other, but stay committed to the twice weekly exercise program if they don't want to program for themselves. And we want to be able to do that long term. And we're going to be offering twice weekly graduates classes once the first program or first cohort goes through the 16 weeks. So the program itself, again, we want to really spend the first month focusing on foundational skills, which as simplistic as it sounds, it's very, very important to be able to progress and do more complex movements. So we focus a lot on breath work. We focus on connecting with the core and the importance of the core. And there's a lot of stretching, a lot of range of motion and flexibility. And then we do low to moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise. So those are the 4 main components for the first 4 weeks. Each week, as I said, is going to be progressive. So we're going to build on what we learned the week before. So we're not just going to learn something and forget about it. We're going to integrate it into every exercise as we go on. Weeks 5 through 8, we're going to work more on mobility, which is, a combination of stretching and flexibility, but it's more movement based and working through a full pain-free range of motion. And then we have 3 foundational exercises that we're going to spend a lot of time on, which is we're going to spend a full week on squatting and hinging. And we can apply these to kind of the functional activities in everyday life, pushing and pulling, we'll spend a week on, and then lunge and carry. So those are kind of the 6 really foundational strength movements that you want to perfect before you're moving on to more complex stuff. Weeks 9 through 12, a little bit more fun. So we got the foundational stuff down. We've connected with our core. So we're going to spend more time on introducing yoga practices and focusing on compound movement, meaning you're doing something that's working upper and lower body at the same time, or working through 2 joints at the same time, not just focusing on one singular movement. And we're going to throw in some circuit training, which means you may spend, 30 seconds doing a strength exercise, 30 seconds doing a cardio exercise, and going back and forth. So you can see how it's kind of going from very, very simplistic but important to a little bit more complex and higher intensity. And we're also going to do a little bit of HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training. So that's just kind of another form of circuit training. And like I mentioned earlier, weeks 13 through 16 is going to be that retainment period where, we're going to throw in some fun stuff. Maybe, it's really going to be guided by the participants. So if they wanted to, try a dance class or meditation or something that we haven't yet done along the way, we're going to throw that kind of stuff in there, but it's really going to be led by the participants. So going back to data and testing and measurements, before the program even starts, you're going to have a one-on-one intake session with me. And we're going to use this hour to go over your health history, your diagnosis, treatment status, any medications that you're on, all the fun stuff. And we're going to get medical clearance. So we'll go over the medical clearance form that you need to get from your doctor. We'll also do some physical assessments so we can get some pre-programmed data. And there will be a pretty lengthy self-survey just having to do with energy levels and current workout routine or last time you were on an exercise program. So just as much information that we can gather together that is pertinent to this program. I'm going to take all of that information and formulate your individual progressive program so that on day one you are given a program that is specific to you and your needs. Ongoing data collection, and this is during and after the program, we're going to be doing a workout survey, so pre-workout survey, post-workout journaling. We're going to do a lot of self-surveys, and then after the program, after week 12, before we start that retainment period, we're going to be doing physical assessments. So we're going to do the exact same ones that we did during the intake session. So lots of data to collect. And very quickly, I want to introduce our Warrior in Training. So in addition to the 16-week program, the Ancestor Project also offers one-on-one training and the graduate classes. But Tom was supposed to be our guest speaker tonight, but he wasn't feeling well, so he's not with us. But I wanted to introduce him because he is our first official registrant for the April 6th progressive group training. And he and I have been working together since January. One-on-one, and he started chemo right around the same time that we started training together, and he's made significant progress in our one-on-one sessions, and he's ready to move on to the group. So he will be joining us on the first day of class. And that's kind of the brief version of a program overview, just to give you guys a few more details. And now I just want to open it up to questions. Okay. And I'm just going to unmute everybody. So go ahead. Let me see here. Sorry. Or yes, if you have a question, unmute yourself and have at it. Blanca?
I have a question. It looks like a really great program. I'm just kind of concerned about like all of these surveys and things like that. I mean, how much time is that all going to take out of my day? Like, because it seems like you want stuff before and after and then more, I mean, it's a little bit, sounds a little stressful to me, but can you tell me a little more about that? You're muted. Ashley, you're muted.
You're muted, Ash.
Hold on.
There you go.
That's a great question, Blanca. And I think the easiest answer is, so the pre-program survey is the most detailed, and that's the one that's going to take the most time. And I think it's important because I want to understand where you're at, not just physically, but mentally before we start the program. Because I compile the information. I don't share it with anybody, but I think I can understand better how to not just program for you, but what areas I'll be able to push you and what areas I need to maybe not push you, and kind of understand better what your progression is going to look like. And it takes about, if you put some real thought into it, it takes about 10 minutes. Now the pre and post workout surveys are 3 questions each. And that's, really the main point of that is I want to know if you're feeling better at the end of the workout than you were at the beginning. Because, my big, the big thing that I want to prove through all of this is that somebody who's going through treatment who may be exhausted and not have the energy to work out, if they just push themselves a little bit, even when they're that tired, that they actually can increase their energy levels on the spot, and they can over time offset that fatigue and the other associated side effects. So that's the big one. The post-workout journaling, it's not necessarily meant to be daunting. It's supposed to be a little bit more, and I think towards the end of the program, people are going to be a little bit more comfortable with it, but there's going to be a couple of questions to answer, but really more about how your feelings of the exercise or how it relates to your treatment kind of evolve over the course of 16 weeks. So you'll be guided in this, and it can be as little as one sentence, and it can be as much as one page. Again, it's not going to be shared with anybody. It's more not therapeutic, but more of a tool for you, so that you can go back and see, like, okay, on day 1, I felt bad before the workout and I felt okay after the workout, but by week 16, I was I can see how my energy changed and how my demeanor changed just in the writing. So it's going to be more of a tool for you guys than it is going to be for me. So is it going to be highly suggested to do? Yes. Is it completely mandatory? No. The pre and post physical assessments are going to be a requirement for the program, and the pre and post survey. But as far as pre and post workout, the 3-minute questions here and there, it'll take 5 minutes or less, but not required. That was a lot of words. I hope that I answered your question somewhere in there. Anybody
I have
else?
a couple of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is, will there be modifications if there's ever something I feel like I might not be able to quite do? And the other question, kind of following up on that, is there any special equipment required?
Great questions. There's always going to be a modification. So, and really what we'll do is we're going to show, usually my teaching style will be to show level 1 standing. And that's kind of the base exercise. If you can do it, then you can do it. If you need to do anything from a chair, I'll also have chair modifications for everybody. If you're not comfortable getting up and down off of the floor, we'll have either chair modifications or we'll figure something out standing. But then there will also be a standing level 2. So if you are feeling good that day, or you do feel like maybe you can do more than what the base exercise shows, there's going to be more an advanced version of the base exercise that you can also try. I want to push you guys, but I also want to keep it kind of streamlined across the board as far as what I'm showing for the base exercise. Now, as far as individualization goes, I'm going to know what your abilities are showing up to that particular workout, and versus what we're actually going to be doing. So a lot of times I'm going to say, this is the base exercise. We're working the pull movement today. So we're going to be doing rows, but Emma, I see that you aren't feeling, getting on the floor today. So you can't do rows on your hands and knees. So you're going to sit in the chair, and I want you to, use the band or whatever equipment you have to do seated rows upright. Or you are, doing body weight movement and you're just pulling that arm back. So as long as we're all doing a pulling movement, working the muscle, like we're all working the same muscle group, it could be a completely different exercise. It can be standing, it could be laying down, it could be with a different piece of equipment. But I'll know that going in, because we had our intake session. I will have a good overview of what your abilities are and what equipment you have available to you. And speaking of equipment, there is no equipment required for this particular program. You can get a cheap pair of bands that really do help with progression for $10, and I can send you a link to that. But otherwise, 4 by 6 foot space is about all you need. A mat is recommended, but if you don't have that, a towel is okay too. And if you do need to make modifications, then I'm going to suggest that you have a sturdy chair to sit in if you need to.
Ash, I think this is all really, really wonderful. I just am curious about your connection to the cancer community and sort of what inspired, this movement. And what are you doing to sort of like continue your education with people that are living with cancer that might not be like a regular person that you would be training?
I think I understand the second part. I understand the first part, which, the background behind all of this is, most of my career has been spent in management and administration, and it's never been, you know, always doing one-on-one training with clients. It's been managing teams of trainers and kind of teaching them how to do it. So, but my passion is this specific population and this specific demographic. My aunt's sister, Helene Lentz, passed away from ovarian cancer about 10 years ago. And she was, kind of the one that inspired me to be a better person. And her passing coincided with me going through my first cancer exercise training. And I kind of knew that anything that I did in this realm would be to honor her memory. So that's kind of where it started 10 years ago. But this idea and this particular 16-week program and this nonprofit has really developed over the course of the last year. We, recognize the need for more in this field. And by more, I mean more exercise-specific programs, more progressive programs, more individualized programs for this population, but really more research. I mean, the research in this field is only about 25 years old, which is relatively new. And it wasn't until, quite recently, I don't want to misquote, but, the last 10, 15 years, I mean, before that, doctors really did encourage people going through cancer treatment to just rest, because it takes everything out of you. You're not going to have the energy anyway. So just focus on getting your rest and don't push yourself too hard. But it wasn't until recently they kind of discovered that the opposite of that is true. And when you are feeling your lowest is really when you should try to push yourself, even if it's just raising your arms up over your head 10 times, that really can help with offsetting that fatigue. So, but again, it's still such a new area of study. I want to be able to contribute to that. So that's why I'm big on the pre and post testing and the assessments. And as soon as we're, doing a hybrid where it's somewhat virtual and somewhat in person, the in-person measurements are going to be a lot more accurate. I think while we're still just doing 100% virtual, it's going to be, really qualitative focused and just reliant on how the participants see they are progressing and succeeding, which is still good. And it's still, viable data. But as soon as I can get somebody in person, we'll be doing more stringent testing methods, I guess. The second part, I'm not quite sure. You were talking about education and certifications in the field, I think. Can you say that again?
More just like what sort of continuing education are you participating in, or maybe what are some resources for us? But I think more along the lines of like, how are you sort of continuing to expand your knowledge, like within this, like you're saying, relatively new exploration of exercise for people going through this particular type of treatment?
There's loads of resources on a lot of the different cancer nonprofit websites. And actually, while I was putting together the plan for this, I was doing a lot of research. And I like to read articles, and I'm always trying to study up on the latest and see, what research is out there and how it compares to what I think the right formula is for this program. And, going back to the beginning of this presentation, the mission will never change, but the formula might. I mean, cancer research is changing all the time, but exercise science as a field on its own is evolving and ever changing. So this program could very well change over the course of however long, based on the results we're getting from the participants, based on the cancer research and exercise that's out there, and recommendations by people in the field, and based on trends in the field, the fitness field specifically. But for me, besides reading articles and doing research online, my certification is through the American College of Sports Medicine. So whatever data or focus groups or workshops they have, for this specific field I do take. And seems like there's always some sort of continuing education that's out there that I will partake in. I have to, do so many credits every year to maintain my certifications. So I usually go for this area. There's a very fun workshop that I am getting ready to sign up for that is a BOSU workshop for breast cancer survivors. So that's going to be the next thing that I'm going to try to learn about.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? All right, well, I think that wraps it up. If you have any other questions or you missed something tonight or you were a few minutes late, that's okay. We're gonna send the recording out to everybody. We're gonna post this specifically on our website, and anything that we went through today, you can find the information on our website. I'm happy to set up a one-on-one phone call to discuss any more concerns that you have as well. All right.
Thank you so much for your time.
Nice to see you. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good night.